Hi there. So, for my essay, I'll be talking about the illegal organ trade, and I'll be arguing that organ trafficking is currently unjust and immoral, and that it should be either stopped completely or monitored so that there are strict protocols in place, but currently it should not remain because it's unethical. So, I want to start by talking about the benefits of the organ trade and why people might be in agreement with it, because whenever we first talked about it in lecture, I was looking at it kind of through a utilitarian perspective, and I saw the mutual benefit for the donors and the recipients and how the most people could benefit from this. So I didn't see that much wrong with it. So, for instance, there is money to be made, especially for the donors in developing countries who would not receive this kind of compensation from, the jobs that they already have. So they make a substantial amount of money by selling the organs, which is especially beneficial whenever they have specific needs, such as a medicine for a sick child that they probably would not be able to afford without doing something radical like this. Also, I'm just thinking about like human rights, like shouldn't we have the right to choose what we do with our bodies and what we buy? So if there's a mutual understanding between their donor and their recipient, shouldn't they be allowed to conduct business how they would like? And then I might also use an example, like a personal one. Like, imagine if you were waiting for a transplant and it was like a first come, first serve basis. Um, it would seem unfair for you to have to wait behind people who you don't know how they took care of their bodies and you don't know if they're as deserving as you, in your opinion. So, if you had the option of buying a new organ immediately, then that would seem very beneficial. But then I will explain how this perspective is flawed because while the donors do benefit financially, there are more negatives than positives when it comes to trading organs. And so that will be the bulk of my essay. So, for the cons of the international organ trade, I want to talk about the major risks for all parties involved, the inequality that is caused in society, and how it undermines current ethical standards. So, first off, for the major risks, I will discuss health risks and how there are negative socioeconomic outcomes and a lack of post-surgery care for donors in most transactions because they live in areas of the world where proper care isn't available. As well, because organ trafficking is illegal, there aren't precautions and guidelines put in place to ensure their safety during and after the surgery. And for recipients as well, because the surgeries are illegal, there can be poor clinical outcomes because of the circumstances and also because of the handling of the organs. You really don't know where your organs have come from or what they've been through. And many believe that a solution to this problem would be making international organ donations illegal if proper medical procedures are followed. But this is an example of discourse ethics because it is dealing with a set of fixed rules that can be altered with the aim of progression. I also want to talk about the illegal activity for physicians in which they are putting their livelihood and their families at risk by participating in these actions. So my next section will be inequality in society. So I'll first talk about donors and how by selling their organs, there is less access to organs for the sick people in their home countries. So this creates a pattern of inequality because as people get sick, not only is there less resources to be used, but also they do not have the money to afford international organs like the people in the global north do. So while they benefit financially now, they're putting their future health at risk when they can't afford or have access to the organs that they need. And also, families in these countries will often have children with the purpose of using them for youth organ donation. So I won't use this in my essay, I don't think, but an example for the presentation would be the movie My Sister's Keeper, in which a couple has a child with cancer, and in order to get the bone marrow that their daughter needs, they have another child who can donate hers. So this is an example of exploitation that would have serious issues if it were done on a global scale, which it would be through youth organ transplants. And then I also want to talk about social worth of the donors, because these people in the global south are already struggling economically and socially, and now they are seen as resources because they're harming their own bodies to benefit people who can afford to buy their organs. And I will use a contractualist perspective to prove that this is unethical, and more specifically, Rawls' theory of justice, because he believes that justice is fairness and that a morally acceptable society is based on the guaranteed rights of every person. So, by allowing people to sell their organs, not out of want but out of financial need, we are, as a human race, belittling them and saying that they are worth less than the recipients because they're getting paid to put their lives in harm's way. And also, for the recipients, there's a basis of inequality because not everyone can afford these illegal organs. So those who can't are further disadvantaged because it will take longer to get their organ transplants, and this could cause conflicts in society when others are able to afford them, and it could also cause political uprising because not everybody is going to agree with this practice. And also, transplants, whether legal or illegal, often follow or do not follow a first come, first served basis. Sometimes there is prioritization involved based on social worth. So, for instance, a mother with young children would be given priority to someone waiting for that same organ who is single. And I think this is fundamentally unfair because the donation system should not be based on criteria such as race, gender, age, family dynamics. And when you include the organ trade on top of this, now there is another set of criteria, which is who can actually afford organs and get transplants first. And my third subsection will be organ trafficking and how it undermines current ethical standards. So for the deceased versus living donors, currently some theorists believe that donations from the living shouldn't even be allowed because we shouldn't be dismantling our bodies for others, essentially saying that others are worth more than we are and deserve a full body. And this is using a deontological perspective because it is based on rules, much like a religion in which morals are based on right and wrong with no wiggle room. And these rules are believed regarding the transplants to be based on the right and just intention of avoiding harm to all humans. Another one is risk-benefit ratios, in which an ethical justification for living organ donations is based on a positive risk-benefit ratio scenario. This is often not the case though, because while the recipient benefits with improved health and survival and a reduced wait time for their organ, the donor will bear all the risk because they are harming their bodies with only two possible benefits from organ donation, which are their financial reimbursement and psychological benefits that come from donating to someone that they care about and they see it as a positive thing to do. But this usually doesn't exist through organ trafficking because they don't know where their organ is going or who it's helping. So they really carry a lot of burden without benefiting at all other than financially. And the third one is organ donation versus sales. So donating usually comes from, like, if I had a sister and I want to donate my kidney to her, I would be willing to sacrifice my body potentially because I care about her. But this kind of willingness to put my body in harm's way does not occur through organ sales because they're doing it out of a financial desire. They're not doing it just out of right or wrong. So there are potential psychological disadvantages that come into play post-surgery because they don't have this motivation for what they're doing other than the financial obligation. And I'm going to use virtue ethics to argue the importance of this point because organ trafficking is not promoting the good life for the donors, but rather than performing a bad action to do the right thing, it is using a good life-saving action to do the wrong thing. So it is not virtuous, and it's hurting donors more than it's helping them in the long run. So yeah, those are my points that I'm going to use my essay to talk about why I disagree with organ trafficking and think that it is unethical. Thank you.